Here's the problem, YouTube. I really want to make funny, stupid videos. The kind in which I can show off my talents using MS Paint, my preferred medium. Like, for instance, this Dalek astrological sign that I made for Ken Plume to replace his formerly shitty sign of Gemini. But as much as I want to, I can't just pump out lighthearted videos and stupid pictures because of shit like this. People, usually children or the elderly, being driven out of their homes, beaten and murdered because good Christian people believe they are witches. Christian organizations like the Liberty Foundation Gospel Ministries in Nigeria, Cameroon, Ghana, and South Africa preach that disease and misfortune are caused by witches and wizards who can be identified by their strange behavior. These churches convince parishioners to bring in suspected witches for deliverance, which involves them being chained up, beaten, and occasionally murdered. Leo Igwe is a child rights activist and also the leader of the International Humanist and Ethical Union in Africa. He campaigns against witchcraft allegations, and he even helped found a home for children accused of witchcraft. For all of his troubles, he has been arrested multiple times. For instance, last year he was arrested on murder charges along with his father. Those charges were later dropped. And there were kidnapping charges leveled against him just 2 weeks ago. You see, earlier this month, Igwe rescued an 8-year-old girl who had been accused of witchcraft and driven out of her home. She ended up living with a mentally disabled man who was allegedly raping her. Igwe rescued her, took her to a hospital where she was treated for malaria, and then he dropped her off at the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare. He was then arrested and accused of kidnapping. He was detained, he was beaten, he was accused of running a scam in the name of protecting children, and eventually he was let go. The police claimed that it was a case of mistaken identity. Sure. The governor of Akwa Ibom State, where Igwe is working, vowed to crack down on children's rights activists because they were giving him a bad name. I mean, he could crack down on churches encouraging the murder of children, but that would require publicly declaring the fact that witches and wizards don't exist, and that would require going against the Word of God. And nobody's about to do that, except for me. And amazing people like Leo Igwe. Now, I know that there are those of you who feel that African people aren't actually worth thinking about at all because they are uncivilized savages. You can actually stop sending me these messages. I get it now. Thank you. I have, in fact, lost all faith in humanity. Thank you. But to combat this, I just thought I'd point out briefly that Americans aren't really all that much better. The West Memphis Three were 3 teenagers who were convicted of the murders of 3 8-year-old boys back in 1993. They were convicted largely on the basis of their satanic look and their weird behavior. Wearing black clothing, being depressed, rejecting their evangelical Christian community, and they also had a penchant for Metallica. 2 of the teens are actually serving life sentences in prison, and one, Damian Eccles, is on death row, and still on death row, despite the fact that none of the DNA at the crime scene matched any of the boys. So it doesn't just happen in Africa, it can happen anywhere. So please support people like Leo Igwe. There's a link in the doobly-doo if you want to get involved. There's also a link if you'd like to help the ongoing defense of the West Memphis Three. To end, I'll just, well, here's a picture of a surfing alligator.